All right, so recently Annie Lederman was hosting a show at the Comedy Store, and a bunch of comedians were performing, and Bobby Lee was one of those comedians. But before his set, he allegedly had a meltdown and stormed off and canceled his set. And some of his fans that were there to see him were obviously really disappointed, and they posted about it on the Bad Friends subreddit. This person said, "Just witnessed Bobby throw a temper tantrum at the Comedy Store and cancel his set. It sucked. I went to the bathroom and I saw Bobby was wearing a bucket hat, screaming at the bouncer about God knows what, and then he canceled his set for real. Santino killed though, but people are definitely pissed off walking out of the show. I blame Kalila, LOL." And there's somebody else who commented that was also there. They said I was there too and was going to make a post about it. Bobby was standing next to me where I was sitting and was loudly eating some nuts while checking out Juicy set. So I was really pissed when Annie said he canceled, and I had just seen him 2 minutes ago in the room he was supposed to perform in. Juicy and Andrew killed though, but F Bobby, as most of the room chanted that. But then of course he was fine taking photos outside afterwards. And then the person who made the original post said, "Yeah man, I mean the tickets were cheap, but I still came there for him and Andrew, and for him to be a effing baby like that was less than ideal. Shit was not cute." And it's funny, a lot of people in the comments are basically just like, what did you really expect? Like this person said, "I guess that is the story of his life, career, always sabotaging himself with his behavior. He's lucky that his ex got him into podcasting. Andrew must be a saint to keep up with his attitude." And somebody else said, "Dude has talked about doing childish shit like this many times, and people are still surprised when it happens." And I kind of agree, and I think these people are lucky. It's cool they got to see Bobby have a meltdown. I think I'd rather see that than him doing the same set he's been doing for 20 years. And him having a meltdown, that's like part of his act at this point. So I'd say they got a pretty good show, and at least Bobby is there. At least they got to see him and see him make a fool out of himself, and they have something to talk about. Like that was probably a more memorable show than if it all just went as planned. Like the person who's there, they said, "I saw him at the Comedy Store fighting with the staff with my own eyes, and saw Annie scrambling on stage and say he's in the building and canceled at the last minute." And somebody's like, "Was Annie pissed?" They said visibly. And they said she went on stage and told the crowd to chant F Bobby. So it sounded like everybody was pissed at him, and people on his subreddit are roasting him, but also at the same time they're like, yeah, this is the Bobby Lee experience right here. Like this person said, "Slowly but surely everyone realizes why Bobby has never had much success outside of podcasting. He's a 50-plus-year-old baby. He's been doing the same act for 20 years. He's never released a special because he doesn't have any work ethic." And another person said, "I really can't think of any other public performer, comedy or otherwise, that acts like Bobby. He's funny, but he's unreliable. If he wasn't funny, he'd be effed." And then they said they thought about going to a Bobby Lee, Andrew Santino show, but after this, they're just going to go see Santino by himself. So it sounds like Bobby might be turning some fans off with this, even though I'm sure a lot of his hardcore fans are already well aware of this kind of stuff. But it'll be interesting to see what happens from this. It sounded like a lot of other comedians were there, so I'm sure people are going to be talking about it. Bobby will probably address it. I'm sure Annie will talk about it. And also the fact that she does that show with Kalila, so I'm sure they're going to discuss it, even though it sounds like that show might not be on too much longer. Like this person said, she's been promoting her own podcast a lot, and she just pretends to care about Trash Tuesday, which is obviously over. And they even said during the show she forgot to mention Trash Tuesday until somebody in the crowd reminded her. And somebody asked if it's really ending, and they responded and they said, "I mean, this was a joke based on the Trash Tuesday Kalila sub freakouts, but in all seriousness, none of them care about it anymore. Clearly, Esther and Annie promote their own pods and barely mention Trash Tuesday anymore, and the numbers are about half of what they used to be." So I don't know how much longer that's going to last, but if they want to get those numbers up, they could invite Brendan Schaub on there. That would be a great podcast. Or they could talk about Bobby's meltdown the other night, or invite him on and try to work things out, because it sounds like Annie is really pissed at him. So there's going to be more to come of this, I'm sure, because also this could hurt future ticket sales for Bobby, so he's probably going to have to give some kind of apology. And it could also affect his tour with Andrew Santino, and Andrew was at that show where Bobby had the meltdown, so I'm sure Andrew's really annoyed with him, and he's probably going to want him to address it and apologize for it. So I'm sure Bobby's going to have to talk about this at some point, but maybe him and Brendan Schaub could go on tour, between Brendan canceling shows and Bobby storming off. I don't know if they'd ever be able to finish a show. Like if you get tickets to go see Brendan Schaub, it's almost guaranteed the show's going to be canceled. At least Bobby Lee shows up and gives some kind of performance, even if that performance is loudly eating nuts and then yelling at a bouncer and and then storming off. That's something. At least you got to see him in his element. But let me know what you guys think about it all down in the comments. And then make sure you go check out my Patreon account. There's a bunch of content up there. If you want to stay updated every week on all these topics, make sure you check it out. There's also some documentary style videos like The Downfall of Adam 22 and the Kramer Michael Richards rant at the Laugh Factory. So make sure you go check that out, and then hit the like button, then hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you at the next video.